Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? It's bracket time! Hello everyone, I'm Nick. Hopefully everyone's having a good time. You know, it's that part of the year, it's getting exciting, you know, everyone's in their seeds. We know new fights now. The college basketball fans are probably getting deja vu. It's great, everyone's having a great time. But it's also that time of year where everyone's voicing their opinions, and you know, there's the knee-jerk reaction people, there's the people acting on personal biases, and you get all these wild stories like, wow, Riptide should have been a #1 seed. Well, I don't think Tantrum should have been in. Well, you know what? Allow me to be the voice of reason, the one that's gonna corral all of these opinions and tell you why most of them are wrong. See, the way we do it here is we go with actual statistics, facts, math, and evidence. And that is what I'm going to present to you in a reseeding of the round of 32 bots, and then we'll take the actual seeds and do some bracket predictions. Sound good? Awesome. All right, let's get started. Let's start by looking at the top 4. So Minotaur, Riptide, Witch Doctor, Hydra. First thought is, wow, they've put 2 3-in-1 bots over unbeaten bots. That seems pretty strange. Look, I thought that too. It makes sense. You've got 4 bots at 4-0, make them as the top 4. The only problem is, Witch Doctor and Hydra have a strength of schedule of 7 and 9. And how did I figure out that number? I added the records of all of their opponents. That's an easy way to do it without, you know, going too batch crazy into this. In comparison, Quantum and Huge had a strength of schedule of 4 and 12. And not only that, Quantum only faced one opponent that ended up making it into the tournament. So, congratulations on 4-0, but, I mean, the numbers don't lie. That's a lot weaker than what we're talking about with everyone else in the top 8. If you want to even go deeper down, let's go and include the rest of the top 8. You've got Endgame and Sawblaze both at 3-1 with strength of schedules that are better than Huge and Quantum. And Sawblaze had 4 opponents. Every one of his opponents has made the round of 32, so Sawblaze actually had a fairly difficult schedule if you want to look at it that way. So much so that some people have made the argument that Quantum and Huge should be up higher because they're 4-0. I'm going to make the argument that they should actually be a little bit lower. So yeah, not only would I not change the top 4, I've got Endgame going up to the 5th seed in my new rankings. Sawblaze also joins in, bumping up 2 spots. I'm giving Sawblaze the 6th seed. And then I didn't like the fact that Quantum was above Huge when Huge at least had 3 of his opponents make the tournament. So Huge is only going to drop 1 spot overall. He's going to go to 7th. Quantum drops 3 spots all the way down to 8th. Big moving and shaking early on from the guy that said he was going to be the voice of reason. Alright, next up we're going to look at seeds 9 through 14. So Cobalt leads the way of these 3-in-1 bots. He had a strength of schedule of 10 and 6, 2 tournament opponents, followed closely by Claw Viper, Ripperoni, Beta, and Lockjaw. And my issue with this section was there was a lot of inconsistency in the strength of schedule. It wasn't straightforward. You got Claw Viper at 5 and 11, who's 11th. There's a bot better than him that's above him, but one that's better and lower than him. Ripperoni had 8 and 8, and Lockjaw had 8 and 8. So like, it's all over the place. Not to mention, why the hell is Copperhead above Ripperoni when Ripperoni beat Copperhead convincingly? I'm sorry, that's another thing that won't make much sense to me. So like, in this case, okay, oh no, even Ripperoni's strength of schedule is better. There's no reason Copperhead should be above Ripperoni. Like, I'm okay with Copperhead being a decent seed, but that one doesn't make any sense. I do a lot of movement in this one. Cobalt's gonna stay in 9th because his numbers look pretty good. Ripperoni, I'm gonna put into the 10th spot, so now they'll be above Copperhead, which is what should have been at the start. But then Lockjaw, sitting at 14th with a strength of schedule of 8 and 8, is actually tied 2nd with Ripperoni in terms of the best strength of schedule. So I don't know why he's 14th. We're gonna bump him up to 11th in Claw Viper's spot. In 12th is where I'm gonna put Copperhead, so now he's below Ripperoni, and the strength of schedule is starting to take a better, now it's, you know, the 8 and 8s are together, followed by the 7 and 9, and then the 5 and 11s come in, with Beta going in 13th for me, and Claw Viper bumping 3 spots down to 14th. Oh, you thought I was done with the bots moving around multiple spots? We're not even halfway through this. Next section, let's look at 15 through 19 because I have some issues. I have some big issues here. So this is where we start getting into the 2 and 2s. Hypershock and Bloodsport are the first 2 and 2 robots to appear at 18th and 19th, with Lucky, Switchback, and Malice all ahead of them. All of those bots are on a 3 and 1 record. All of them have a worse strength of schedule than Hypershock and Bloodsport. It is so bad that Hypershock had more opponents make the tournament than Lucky, Switchback, and Malice combined. That's how easy those 3 had the schedule this year. Now, I get it, they won more fights, but like, they fought less tournament opponents, the strength of schedule is worse, and I mean, sure, it feels weird to put a 2 and 2 in front of a 3 and 1, but not when you have numbers this drastically different. I would reseed that. 15th is Hypershock, he moves up 3 spots. 19th is Bloodsport, he moves up 3 spots. Followed by Lucky, he's gonna drop 2 spots to the 17th. Malice dropping 1 to the 18th, not a whole lot of change. And then Switchback, I'm glad you're here, but 16th is a little high for you. We're gonna go 19th, so you drop 3 spots. All right, moving into the 20s, we've got Whiplash, Black Dragon, Mad Catter, and a Rotator. They're all at 2 and 2. Pretty much everyone's faced 4 tournament opponents. Mad Catter had Big Deal, that's the only exception. Again, my issue here is that the strength of schedule makes no sense. So like, obviously Whiplash got a big win on the final fight card against Tantrum, but that only takes his strength of schedule to 7 and 9, whereas Black Dragons is 13 and 3. 13 and 3 being the like the easy, clear out, like by the numbers, Black Dragon had the toughest schedule, apparently. Sometimes numbers are misleading. So of course I'm gonna, order it by numbers. So here we go again. The new 20th seed for me would be Black Dragon. Mad Catter would bump up to 21st. Rotator up to 22nd. Whiplash, who has the weakest strength of schedule of all 4 of those with 7 and 9, would go as the 23. And now let's get into the bottom 9, because there's a lot of movement. So we've got Monsoon and Blip at 2 and 2 records as the 24th and 25th, and then we get our first 1 and 3, which is Tantrum. We've also got Ribot who made it at 1 and 3, Shatter who made it, and Fusion who made it with the 1 and 3 records. Now, we could have had it just be 2 and 2 bots, but then you've got Shred It Bro, who was unconvincing even when he won his fights. Triton, who had some inconsistencies. Valkyrie, who looked poor at times. Like, you're scraping the barrel here for bots. Not to mention then you got somebody like Fusion, who the loss to Witch Doctor was so close. That's practically a win, so you could argue he's 2 and 2. Tantrum is the defending champion. I'm sorry, a 1 and 3 Tantrum that's struggling is better than a 2 and 2 Shred It Bro. Like, okay, pedigree shouldn't be a thing. It should just be straight wins versus losses. Well, there's no fair way to schedule it and not have some sort of clause or stipulation of pedigree unless everyone fought each other once. And BattleBots doesn't have enough invested into that to make that possible. But if you share this with your friends and tell everybody how great BattleBots is, maybe we can make it so that in the 2026 season, there's 40 bots and they all fight each other once. And that is the fairest thing you can do. Totally gonna happen. Let's go. Let's make it happen. Come on. Tell your friends. Share it on Facebook. We'll start with one little change at a time. So the first thing I would do is I put Blip ahead of Monsoon. Just swap them real quick because the strength of schedule is a little bit different. Blip's is slightly better. I thought I was gonna be moving Tantrum from the 26th spot originally, but I don't really see a better place for him. So he's actually gonna stay put amongst all the chaos around him. My new 28th is going to be Death Roll because his strength of schedule is pretty good compared to a couple bots just above him, albeit he beat Mammoth. Like, that was such a favorable fight for him, you know what I mean? I'd put Death Roll just behind Tantrum in 27th. That would bump Scorpios down to 28th. And then we're gonna have Jackpot move into the 29th spot for me. Because here we go again. Why is Ribot above Jackpot? Why? Not only does he have a worse record, he lost to Jackpot pretty handily. The only thing Ribot's got going for him is that the strength of schedule is better. It's 10 to 6 compared to 6 and 10, and 4 tournament opponents for Ribot as opposed to 3 for Jackpot. But like, That is so criminal. That is so rude to Jackpot. So Jackpot goes to my 29th, which puts Ribot down to 30th, and now that makes sense again. And then a couple more changes real quick. So, how the hell did Shatter get in? I went and calculated the numbers for not just the round of 32, but a few bots that I thought were in contention for a 31 or 32nd seed. One that stuck out to me that I thought, would be a little bit better than Shatter happens to be his brother Emulsifier. Emulsifier, who comes in with the same record as Shatter, who comes in with the same strength of schedule as Shatter, but also has faced one more tournament opponent. And let's face it, he could have easily been 2-2 the way that fight with Fusion was going. And he kind of got unlucky against Malice. So Emulsifier I think showed a little bit better than Shatter. And I would have preferred Emulsifier. But I wouldn't have had him at 31 because I would have then bumped him at 32 and Fusion would have been 31 because Fusion beat Emulsifier. Consistency, you are ranked better than the bot you beat. That would happen 3 times then. And BattleBots failed to do it twice. Might as well put Witch Doctor above Minotaur. What the f? So overall, of the 32 seeded bots, only 7 on my new reseeding didn't change position at all, and 4 of them were the top 4. So this bracket I thought was okay when I saw it on TV. I didn't think there were going to be too many complaints, and then I realized after doing the math, there were some problems. So yeah, that's that. Let me know what you think of my reseeding down below, and tell me how crazy I am, because I'll admit I did some crazy stuff, but I don't know how crazy until you tell me what's crazy. So you do that, and then we're gonna get to the next part of this video. I'm gonna make my bracket. I've done this in the other years too, I'm pretty sure, and it doesn't go well. I'm not good at this, but we're really gonna try this year. We're gonna try really, really hard. Man, I really need to get to sleep. It's 1:12. Can you look at it? It's 1:12 in the morning when I'm recording this, and I gotta get up at 7:30 to ref all day tomorrow. This is fun. Alright, anyway, we're going to go back to what was the original seedings. We're going to accept them as the truth because obviously I'm not a part of the selection committee. My opinion ultimately doesn't matter. This is what we got to go with. Let's start on the left side. So, number 1, Minotaur versus Fusion. I want to believe Fusion could, cause an upset, make it entertaining, but I don't see this going well for him at all. I think Minotaur obviously is going to cruise. Who wouldn't? It's a 1v32. Switchback versus Malice. Well, Malice doesn't really like verts, and Switchback has not only had a better looking vert this year, they've also looked a little more durable, and Malice has shown some inconsistencies. That should be Switchbacks, and I think. Sawblaze versus Blip. There's a possibility of an upset here. It's all about ground game, and we know Sawblaze isn't the lowest machine because Hydra's exposed him, and a couple other bots in the past, I think, but is Blip going to be able to do it consistently? Can they outdrive Sawblaze? And, it's not like Blip is a wide bot that would be hard to corral, so I feel like this favors Sawblaze. We'll see what happens. Cobalt Monsoon. They're so similar, these two verts, but I feel like Cobalt might be hitting a little bit harder, and I feel like their ground game's fairly decent. It really could go either way with one slip up. Down to the other quadrant, we've got Hydra Death Roll. It's gotta be Hydra, right? Death Roll they don't play the fork game, they don't play the ground game, and I don't expect them to try once and beat Hydra, who's been doing it for so long and getting so good at it. Beat a Whiplash. This is one I'm having some thoughts over. It could go either way, I feel like. But I feel like the fact that Whiplash has a damaging weapon in the form of a vert. What armor config does Beta use? He can't use the vert armor because then he's going to get lifted, but if he uses the normal wedge, wouldn't that be a problem with Whiplash's lifter? I don't feel like it favors Beta enough, but I do worry if he gets some good shots that Whiplash stops working eventually. But we're going to go with Whiplash. Alright, next then we've got Quantum and Ribot. I don't think it matters what Ribot uses. I think Quantum is going to be alright here. Ripperoni Black Dragon. Is Ripperoni too awkward to be hit? Does Ripperoni have a reach advantage? I think he does. And we've seen both bots. Black Dragon tried to run from Riptide, exposing his side. He got burned. Copperhead exposed to Ripperoni and got burned. So not only is Black Dragon lost with this method, Ripperoni knows how to win with being aggressive and getting them to try and flank around. So I think Ripperoni could win this fight. We're gonna do the entire left side. I feel like it'll be easier to edit, and I don't have time. Remember, it's 1:12 on it's now Saturday morning, and I want this done ASAP so I can do predictions. Yeah. So Minotaur versus Switchback for the round of 16. I can't imagine it would be too difficult for Minotaur as long as he's, as long as he's careful and times his shots right. I think he should win. Sawblaze versus Cobalt. It's going to be hard to outdrive Sawblaze when you're struggling with gyro effects. As long as Sawblaze doesn't fuck up. Hydra versus Whiplash. It's a rematch of what? The 2020 quarterfinal, right? Where Hydra was winning until like the last 10 seconds when he let Whiplash get some damage in, and then he lost the fight fair and square. I don't think he's going to screw up again. I think Hydra will take it. I would be way more confident now in Hydra winning this fight than I was then. Quantum Ripperoni. I do worry for Quantum getting good bites. It might be harder on Ripperoni, but I still feel like he would just find a way to bully him around the box. So that brings the quarterfinals of Minotaur Sawblaze, and here's where my number 1 seed is going down, people. Because we saw last year that Sawblaze can not only beat Minotaur, he can kind of kick his ass a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again. But it would still be a great fight no matter what happens. Hydra versus Quantum, a 4v5. Well, so we talked about ground game. You've got to beat Hydra at ground game, and not many teams are able to do that. Quantum might be able to put up a fight. Hydra would put on some extra armor, but I feel like Hydra would be all right in this one. Not by much. This is starting to look biased towards Team Waiachi. Listen, I think Jake in those freaking live streams has been like, oh, I just want to hit something now. I don't want to play the ground game. I want to retire Hydra. And it's like, why would you do that with a winning bot? Unless it won. So what if Hydra wins and that's why, and Jake's just being a goddamn troll like he always is? I don't trust you, Jake. You're up to something. So a semi-final of Sawblaze and Hydra, which we've seen this year, so let me put my tinfoil hat on. Hydra's gonna win again, boys. Let's do the other side of the bracket. Riptide versus Shatter. Well, I mean, we saw this last year. Riptide kicked his ass. I think it's gonna happen again. It's just not a matchup that suits Shatter one bit. I've heard a little drama with Riptide is on its way. I'm not gonna say too much. I'm just gonna tell you what my picks are. So I'm gonna say Riptide wins the fight. Lucky versus Hypershock. Lucky doesn't do well against verts, and Hypershock's a fast vert, so it's probably going to be a Hypershock win. Endgame versus Tantrum, another rematch. I love it. I'm going to have to go with Endgame. He looks way better than Tantrum does right now, and he's already beaten him once in the past. Copperhead versus Rotator. I think Rotator could win. I don't think he's going to win. I think he's got to put his wheel in a precarious spot to try and get to a part of Copperhead that's safe to hit. And Copperhead's gonna get him eventually. I mean, maybe a couple good shots. It might take a few to knock Rotator down. Witch Doctor Jackpot. It's kind of a dangerous fight for Witch Doctor, but I trust Mike to be the better driver and to figure it out. Lockjaw versus Bloodsport. I actually debated with Cap a little bit about this. He thinks Bloodsport's gonna win, where I think Lockjaw is gonna slap that plow on and do to Bloodsport what Beta did to Bloodsport. Maybe not as well. I feel like there is a mistake in Lockjaw at some point. It just depends on when it happens in the fight and if Bloodsport can take full advantage or not. I'm going to say Lockjaw because I don't think that mistake's going to be as costly, if it even happens. Huge and Scorpios. This section of the bracket is tailor-made for Huge. He's never been getting verts, the four-wheel drive verts that he is supposed to be destroying. He's the meta killer, and they won't give it to him. But he's got a path where he's going to fight some verts, and it could get interesting. I don't see what attachment of anything Scorpios could do that might help them in this fight, unless they put something over the saw to try and hook him, but I think Huge is good here. Claw Viper Mad Catter, well, it's going to be an upset based on the numbers, but my expectation is that Mad Catter is going to win this fight. He's got enough pace to compete with Claw Viper. You can't beat Claw Viper, it's probably the fastest bot. But I mean, we also just saw Claw Viper lose to Hypershock, and Mad Catter's fairly close to him, so I feel like it's going to go similarly. And it's a shame for Claw Viper because he's been fun to watch this year, but I think the selection committee did him a little dirty. That brings us to the round of 16, where it's Riptide versus Hypershock on my card. I'm just gonna say I think Hypershock's gonna win this fight. That's all I'm gonna say. Endgame versus Copperhead. So I'm pretty sure I drew this up on my card last year, and it ended up not happening. Endgame versus Copperhead. I'm actually worried for Endgame if this is a possibility. He shouldn't use forks in this fight, because if he does, Copperhead's gonna rip them up. Shit. I got the 1, the 2, and the 4 making the semifinals. That's some bullshit. I can tell you that right now. You know what? Because of that, I'm actually gonna switch Endgame out and put Copperhead. So what does Endgame run for forks? Because anything he runs with forks, then they would be the first point of contact with Copperhead's weapon, and that can't end well for the forks, so... I was meant to give reasons why I thought Endgame would win, but my brain just kinda... It was 1 in the morning. Witch Doctor Lockjaw, I think Witch Doctor's gonna outdrive him, and I think there's some beefy wheels on Lockjaw that might come off. Huge versus Mad Catter. Unless Mad Catter comes up with something extravagant, which I don't think they're gonna do, this is the bot that Huge was designed to beat, and I think we're gonna see Huge be Huge. So to my quarterfinals, Hypershock versus Endgame. Well, we've seen it 2 times now. Do we need to see it a 3rd time? Endgame wins that fight. Witch Doctor Huge. Now, it's again a 4-wheel drive vert for Huge to break the meta. You know, the story continues. But like, just because it's a 4-wheel drive vert doesn't mean Huge is gonna win. So when is he gonna lose? It's gotta be to one of the top ones, one of the better drivers, one that has shown they can get far in tournaments, and that's Witch Doctor. So I think Huge is going to have the greatest season he's ever had, but it's going to end at the quarters here because Witch Doctor will just ultimately figure it out. Semifinals of Endgame and Witch Doctor. Well, we've seen this before too. It didn't end pretty for Witch Doctor on that occasion. I can't imagine it would again unless, I don't know, they got to find a way to beat Endgame's forks. It could go either way, but I'm going to side with history. Speaking of siding with history, that means my final is Hydra versus Endgame. I swear I'm not biased towards Hydra, and I'll prove it just by... You know, I'm not going to be like, Hydra's going to win the bracket because I think Jake's bluffing. If this matchup happens, I'm pretty sure Endgame would win. It just makes sense. It just makes sense. But who knows? Maybe that ends up being the final and Hydra wins and Jake was bluffing, and then, yeah, and then I look like a fool in a different way. So that's all I got today. I recorded way longer than I wanted to because I'm trying to keep this short so I have time to edit it before the tournament comes out. But whenever this comes out, hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you have some things to say about my opinions. Let's banter a little back and forth. Tell me why I'm wrong. Slate me. Call me an idiot. If you enjoyed this video, check out some of our other real-life BattleBots content. When the season ends, I want to do more because I haven't had more time. I want to review some of the more controversial judges' decisions, and I've got some other great ideas that I want to investigate. But until those come out, why don't you binge BattleBots Reborn Cup Season 6? Because that's a fun series. You like real-life BattleBots, why don't you try the virtual stuff? You know, it's pretty cool. A little more fights, less filler. All right, I gotta go sleep, though. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and see you soon. Subscribe. Do it. I'll see you in the next one, then. We can talk again. Why do my outros always take so long? Good night.